And what it goes back to is gladiators. Make them fight to the death, and they would cheer on a gladiator, but the whole time the gladiator wasn't fighting because he liked fighting, he wasn't fighting because he loved anything else, he was fighting completely for survival. And his whole survival completely relied upon a stadium full of people. That's why media is like, because they just want to see you not let some other guy fight. It's literally fucking gladiators. They love to see. It's like crazy because the whole thing is all built off of gladiator mentality. To really participate in juking the system, you know, like the only way is to come out of your human self.
I just want to preface this video with saying one thing and one thing only. If I sound really gross, it's because I'm not well at the moment. I was dying completely yesterday because I had to take my Serotype, which is an inhaler. I'm asthmatic as fuck. It ain't easy being wheezy out here, guys. I tell you that. But I'd rather take my medication and be really shaky and weak than not being able to breathe. So yeah. As I've grown and got older, the concept of being a savior of the furry fandom became less and less appealing as the years went by. If you knew me back in 2020 to 2023, I think we can all agree that I was annoying as fuck. It actually pains me looking back because, Jesus Christ, I was so fucking annoying, and I sincerely apologize for my dumb ass being so self-righteous, for no other reason than Twitter brain rot. Goddamn. With all that being said, though, and showing my self-awareness, I wanted to talk about the concept of the furry fandom savior. Why does this even exist in the first place? Well, two things. Furry is a weird subculture, and anything outside of the norm is unknown is what the media will latch onto as a scapegoat, or just as a new hot seat. Look at this thing's weird, let's make fun of it. TV causes violence, heavy metal music and Dungeons & Dragons is causing satanic worship to rise, video games are training kids to be school shooters, blah blah blah. You've heard it all at this point. It's not new for these sensational headlines to be a thing, as they need the new headline to get the clicks or views or, old school, newspapers to be bought. So if that means throwing in a white lie, so be it. So furry is in no way different to any of my previous examples. It is a weird subculture, and naturally when people see something new and weird and they don't understand it, they make assumptions. Is it a sex thing? Do you fuck dogs? Do you think you're an animal? We've heard it all at this point. Furry is now just another one of those things, but it's still going through the rough stage, where the actual definition is just that little bit buried. The sensational stuff is so outlandish and downright entertaining, which is why we laugh at it, but outsiders also laugh at us. You can't necessarily blame them for laughing because we are also laughing. The important part to know is what most people are mad at is the fact that they don't know that this is basically for entertainment purposes and treat these news reports and other sites as fact when they are not reliable sources. So yes, it can be a problem, but those who genuinely want to know who we are and what the community is about will find those reports with a simple Google search. There's a plethora of news reports, interviews, studies, etc. to show what the community is actually about. Hell, as I'm editing this script, it's the weekend after FNMY, and the bartenders were so fucking happy and ecstatic to see us. They thought it was so cool what we were doing, and just seeing that we wanted to have fun. Let me ask you a simple question. How many of y'all had an anti-furry phase before becoming a furry? I'm willing to bet a good few of you, because it is a literal meme in the community. I am also in this category as well. Obviously, if this was that big of an issue as it was, you'd more than likely not have the same people with the same backstory or have the fandom explode over the last few years. The fandom has not had any stunted growth. If anything, I'd argue these reports have actually made the furry fandom bigger in membership. Especially things like TikTok, kig suits, dino masks, lava foxes, cat masks, etc. exploding in popularity for the accessibility and customization. With all of this being said, that's saying, if you agree with me, of course, you might be wondering, what is the point of the furry fandom savior? Everything is going up in the fandom's favor, right? Well, there is a new spin on the previous example that I've just mentioned of the media hating on furries. Furry has become more and more prominent in the media, particularly right-wing media, as their new favorite scapegoat. They use furry as a new, the gays are going too far, you see the transness ideology is leading into trans species and wanting litter boxes, and if you are stupid enough, you will believe it. This isn't and won't be the last time the alt-right will use something to hate on LGBT people, because if they hate gay people, they hate gay people. Simple as. They like to be outraged, so if something shows any bit of positivity towards the LGBT, get them! Get them! So this idea of saving the fandom is popping back up, and because of that, people are getting afraid of the bad people that lurk in our community, as we cower for another dark age of furry similar to the early 2000s. Although some have taken it into their own hands and make content to shed light on these people. This usually comes in the form of commentary or exposed videos. Let me talk about this pedo, let me talk about this zoo, let me talk about this rapist. In this frame of mind, by exposing the scum, they get uncomfortable and either leave the fandom, or if you're lucky, get them banned from certain events, which of course is a good thing. But bad people are everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's furry or not. There is no test to see if you can join the furry fandom by taking a good person quiz. It's just people not understanding how communities, bad people, an overall clusterfuck of other psychological things like negative cognitions, etc. It is not amplified by certain fandoms or communities, nor does a certain community make you a bad person or more likely to be a bad person. Unless it's like shock gore or something, you know. You get the idea. Also, it doesn't necessarily guarantee their exit from the fandom. Some hide under new personas, handles, profiles, etc. Usually these are figured out, and as they are not done very well. Only thing that is guaranteed is that they are exposed for what they have done. Might I add, in some cases of this sort of content, is that if there is an ongoing investigation on a certain someone, some are fucking idiots and will take matters into their own hands and tamper with the fucking investigation. This isn't your fucking place. I understand justice systems can be fucking awful. That doesn't mean any chance of justice should be squandered by your inexperience out of spite and self-righteousness. It isn't your place. But another thing that this content feeds upon is fear-mongering. This is going to set us back another few years. This is why people hate us, when there are actually a lot of reasons people hate us other than just the bad stories of us. Personally, I know a lot of people think that fursuits are creepy. It's this mindset of we are being set back that makes it feel like this is a necessary evil to expose these types of people. While I don't think it's necessarily wrong to talk about these stories, my main issue arises when it is used as an ego boost and not out of altruism, and when it becomes fear-mongering content and just out of pure hatred for the fandom. The more you consume negative content and stories, naturally that's the echo chamber you create for yourself, now a negative cognition. It's honestly quite sad seeing people become so self-destructive by destroying their own sense of the furry fandom by surrounding themselves with these stories and essentially letting these people ruin the fandom for themselves. With having this heavy burden of thinking they have to protect the fandom by themselves or a title given by their viewers. Again, meant to be a compliment, but it does hold weight and that can be heavy. Another thing I want to note about this content is just how this content is presented. Is it bashing said individual with jokes about XYZ, or is it a compilation of things they said or did? This is a huge indicator on how they treat these cases. Cracking jokes and overall just bashing said individual says to me that this is made for the drama, views, and overall having this self-righteous of, look what I'm doing for the community. There's a sense of ego I get from content like this, and it genuinely makes me uncomfortable. Although all of this for me could be just projection, but sometimes I do see it shine through in this type of content. Also, I don't mean light little jokes, more just bashing individuals for whatever they can because they did this thing screams unprofessionalism, or to put themselves on a high horse for not committing a crime. I think that falls into the bare minimum. Personally, what I find a good example of this content is documentation. I already said this before, but a compilation of actions said or done with a mix of out of fandom similar cases. You know, keeping us tethered to reality as it should. Another argument I see is that this content helps certain zoos or pedos to get help. I would argue that it doesn't, and with the videos made on people like this, that's clearly not the goal when you are bashing them and treating them as subhuman. If you want someone to change, you wouldn't do that. Not to mention these videos do not stop people from being bad people. It's their choice to change their behavior, and these videos will more than likely make them stay in their ways. Not to mention also just trying to get help for people with paraphilias is something that is quite jarring just because of what it is. Hell, even some professionals can turn around and not take it as seriously as, you haven't done anything yet, therefore I think you're okay, or simply misdiagnosing with shit like harm OCD. A lot of the time, it goes untreated, and some of these people just do not see a problem with their behavior and do not bother to seek help at all, leading to horrible outcomes. But treatments are most effective when voluntary. Usually, this is treated with medications to lower testosterone levels in men due to pedophilic disorder being more common in men, training in social skills, psychotherapy, treatments in problems like depression, loneliness, substance abuse, etc. Prison and other institutions will not change their behavior. It has to be up to them to change. So even if prison cannot change a bad person, what makes you think your 15 minutes expose video will do? Absolutely nothing. May I also add, I am no way trying to garner sympathy for pedos. What I am trying to say is, hey, this is a disorder and should be treated like one. Because there are in fact a lot of disorders that actually lead to outside harm. Pedophilic disorder just happens to be one of them. Others include narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, psychopathy, etc. Of course, even people with these disorders do not necessarily want to hurt people, so they end up getting help or realize they're on the verge of doing so. I'm not saying it's an excuse, it is an explanation. If anyone wants to genuinely get to the root of the problem, this is it. Disorders in the brain and trauma. Also, I think it's awesome if someone decides to get help for something that is taboo. It takes a lot of guts, but you are also taking responsibility for yourself and not hurting others, which should be applauded. But not everyone can be helped or see problems in their behavior, which is when you can be seen as a bad person or not. Just wanted to reiterate before someone types away in the comments. A lot of the time, these videos are seen as PSAs, documentation, or awareness videos in order to stay away from these individuals. And with that, yeah, I see their effectiveness and would encourage that. I don't want this to seem like I'm completely against this sort of content. Personally, videos I described beforehand are a perfect example of the type of content that I personally enjoy and what I find actually helps fandom without making an echo chamber or a furry fandom savior role for themselves, because a lot of the time it is unfortunately placed onto people by their fanbase. Of course, it's never meant to be malicious and is meant to be a compliment, but regardless, that weight is still carried through to be a savior for the furry fandom that we do not need. But no one is automatically a better furry by speaking out about bad people. Sometimes it's actually a bad thing because some of these people don't care if it's negative attention, it's still attention. The furry fandom savior compliments these individuals' comments such as, "You're the only good furry," because they speak about the bad people. This also seems to level this inferiority complex onto people who do not talk about that. May I remind you that no one is obligated to talk about the shitty parts of our fandom because 1, they do not have to, 2, they want to focus on the positives, 3, their mental state is not able for those kinds of stories and people, and 4, they don't want to involve themselves in things that they don't need to involve themselves in, and that can make situations 10 times worse. I can go on. There are multiple reasons as to why people may not talk about these things, and neither should be shamed or labeled as a bad furry because of it. Not to mention, this content should never automatically be labeled as good, because there are multiple controversies of these certain expose videos just being flat out wrong and leading just to some horrible situations. Misinformation, petty drama, personal quarrels between individuals, vendettas, many of which should just not be aired out into the public, especially the internet. You have a personal thing with someone, sort it out in private, or just leave it alone. Air your dirty laundry out in the open, it's going to make you look like a fucking dumbass. So, yeah. This was something that was inspired by a YouTuber called ClappedSeal. He made a video talking about "We will fix the furry fandom," just talking about the furry fandom savior complex, and it just really resonated, and I was like, oh hell yeah! So I will leave their video linked in the description. I also used it in the intro. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.
Do you say goodbye?